Good morning, honored chairman and committee. Thank you for listening and hopefully considering what I have to say today. I'm a professional business appraiser practicing in Boise, Idaho, and I also happen to be an adjunct faculty member at Boise State University. This afternoon, when I go to teach undergraduates principles of finance, I will go without an effective means of self-defense on my person because of the current situation. Why do I go to work? There is a very low probability of an occurrence in this state, but that does not mean it will not happen. Okay. On February 4th, I really wanted to go over a number of issues today, but most of them have been discussed, so I won't bore you with them. And for some of the rather outlandish arguments we've heard, I certainly can't address them in 3 minutes, although I'd love to. However, I will cover one thing, one issue only. On February 4th, I received an email from the president of Boise State University advising me that I should come here and tell you my feelings. That letter also advised me that there is an emergency operations plan in effect at Boise State to guarantee my safety. I thought to myself, gee, I better familiarize myself with that plan. So I went out on the internet and I got it and I looked at it. Would you like to hear what the recommendation is in the event of an active shooter? Furthermore, each and every one of you, I believe, has a duty to get that plan and look at it and read it and study it and ask yourself if you'd put yourself in that circumstance when an active shooter came on. Here's the advice. If the suspect is in close proximity, generally one can lie motionless and pretend to be unconscious or confront the individual. I won't tell you what I said when I read that. My wife's a Texan. I read that to her. She said, "Are you kidding me?" One cannot fail to conclude after reading this emergency operations plan that every individual is on their own with regard to personal security. Guess what? I've got a plan for my personal security. I've trained and trained and trained, not once, but many, many, many hours in the effective use of a firearm and other less lethal elements of force. I would ask that you would support this bill and not deny people who want to abide by the law, people who want nothing better than to do the right thing, an effective means of self-defense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I do have just a quick question, if I could.
Go ahead.
Sir, have you approached the administration about asking for you particularly whether you, with your training and your permit, to carry a concealed weapon when you do teach at the university?
No, sir.
And, Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Did you know that you could avail yourself of that?
I perceive that probability to be non-existent, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
Do you have any reason to believe that other than believing that the administration would simply say no? No, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
So we have Dr. Burt Glandon and then Ryan Jenks, and committee, we're starting to push up against our deadline to go on the floor.
Thank you, Chairman McKenzie. Senators, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm President Burt Glandon on behalf of the College of Western Idaho Board of Trustees and Administration. I'm honored to present to you here today. We at CWI are opposed to Senate Bill 1254 relating to firearms regulation based on the following points. One, the bill is not clear in its definition of a campus, and as you well know, CWI is a community college, and we particularly occupies more than a dozen locations across the service area, with most residing in private leased buildings is where we operate out of. Number two, the bill does not consider the diversity of the college campus. CWI has high school, dual credit students attending classes on our campus. We have early childhood education programs that work with toddlers and very young, and we also host several visiting high schools that tour our facilities and take assessment testing in our various locations. Thirdly, the bill does not address how this regulation can be enforced. CWI does not have lockdown capabilities. It does not have armed security and other resources that would be necessary to enforce this regulation would cost. The bill will have cost implications to the college. CWI has already identified the potential for signage, armed security, additional measures that would need to be taken in order to address safety and security issues, and this is the initial cost that we're looking at is in excess of $200,000. The bill is unclear as to what is being addressed when it refers to sometimes firearms and other times firearms and weapons. Weapons, if they are included, we need to have them identified, know what we're talking about. The bill impedes with the local control of our Board of Trustees, who are also locally elected to regulate policy for our college and ensure the conducive learning environment for all students across our various operations. And lastly, we feel that the bill is not well written. CWI would request more discussions occur with the institutions impacted about the decision of this legislature. Our college campuses do not fit within the traditional campus structure by the ways of our location, diversity of students, and capacities for enforcement. We do not believe that this bill will keep our campuses safe and secure. I want to thank you for your time today and your energy, and I hope that you will consider these concerns in making your decision.
Senator Stinnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. You brought up a very good point, which I'd forgotten to ask. The College of Southern Idaho has its campus in Haley, in my home area, on the property and attached to the public high school. Mm-hmm. At which point does this law, is that enforceable over in situations where a university, and perhaps the chairman can answer this, where a university facility, outsourced facility, which is campus property, is attached to some other school that isn't part of this bill? How do you enforce that?
Chairman McGinnis and Senator Sen, that's what we're grappling with right now. We're in private buildings. We're in leased buildings across the area. We're also in high schools. So we are offering courses in multiple physical locations, and we're trying to figure out, I think it needs to be clarified, how would we do this? If this bill is actually enacted and goes on, how are we going to implement it? How are we going to, and how are we going to enforce it? How are we going to secure it? I think some of the questions that were just brought up a couple of minutes ago expressed some real concern about definition of the bill. I truly think there needs to be some serious conversation about how we're defining and implementing these particular kinds of issues. I don't know how we're going to address buildings that we're in providing college courses where the building is leased or owned by somebody else, or it's in a high school.
Yeah, and to answer that, the K-12 prohibition would still apply, and the contractual arrangements with the landlord would still apply.